Uh-oh. Uh-oh. The day has come. I just can't be held back no more. Do I have the right headphone in? I don't believe I do. Just in case some shit happens, I gotta put this one in. What a great start. We're doing wrestling content. It's unscripted to avoid me spending months and hours on scripted wrestling content, because when the big brain gets going, there's too much to say, and this was one of those days. So this will probably... All I have planned to do in this recording session is to talk about Dynamite. Dynamite from tonight, which was today, which was yesterday, which was earlier this afternoon for me, because I live on the other side of the world. Nonetheless, I don't really have any plans to talk about everything else. I've avoided doing wrestling content for a long time. Honestly, I don't know why I've avoided doing unscripted wrestling content. Seems stupid. Seems like that. Every 3 months or something, I end up writing a whole fucking first draft for a wrestling video, and they're always long, and I'm always very passionate about it. I write them a lot easier than I write all the other videos. I care about wrestling more than all the other shit that I talk about. But maybe I just suspect the audience isn't there. Nonetheless, I've never even thought, just do unscripted stuff. Then you don't have to do this big time sink. You get everything off your chest, so it's not all boiled up and frustrated and needing to be let out in a scripted video that will waste everybody's time. Hopefully there will be some other scripted videos coming out soon. We have been working on some things. Nonetheless, let's talk about it. Let's just get into it. Dynamite tonight was interesting. Part of me thinks it was the first really good one in a long time, and part of me just thinks sometimes we're highlighting the underlining issues with old AEW. I'm sure I will reference WWE stuff. This isn't like a podcast or anything. I don't want to go over all the topics of the day. I don't think we'll be talking about Mandy Rose quitting or getting fired or whatever happened with that. Though it is kind of an interesting story that leads to a few interesting questions. Nonetheless, all that's planned right now is to speak specifically about Dynamite. I'm not talking about World Tag League either. Should I do a wrestling recap? I have some other wrestling videos on the second channel. I think I only have one of the ranking matches video. I've actually started going on Cage Match and rating matches on there, because it's kind of like a wrestling mal, though way shittier and a terrible old design and all the stuff like that. So I've been rating matches on there. I think my name is just the K-Brit on there as well. So if you wanted to find that, I guess you could. I don't think you can follow people on there like Letterboxd or whatever. So you can kind of get my wrestling taste through there a little bit. Grew up WWE initially, then got very into TNA when I was much younger. That was a little bit before the 2010 period, but then in the 2010 period, really, all the way into 2014, I was still watching Impact. Bobby Roode stuff, that title reign, that was peak Impact stuff. Peak me watching Impact, probably. I was big into 10-10-10 and all that nonsense. Then basically it was... There was 2013 to 2014 where I sort of fell off wrestling kind of entirely. Not entirely. We would still record Raw and SmackDown on the Foxtel, but usually they would just get deleted or skipped through really quickly. So especially this summer, usually around WrestleMania period, you're always paying attention. I love Royal Rumble and stuff like that. Loved the Royal Rumble since the day I was born. My favoriteest match as a kid. Conceptually, it's so cool and so fun. But yeah, and then in 2015, I got the network, and I really got back into it in a massive way, back into the IWC and whatever, or the YouTube wrestlers, not YouTube wrestlers, wrestling YouTubers, etc. And since then, it's been pretty hardcore. Until the pandemic, where I sort of fell off nearly everything. I was still watching WWE TV. I actually fell off AEW TV entirely, but we're not up to that yet. In 2015, I get the network. I get really into NXT for the first time. I was previously into NXT at the very beginning of the Full Sail era, which is in that 2013 period. That I said I kind of fell off wrestling a little bit. Nonetheless, we get really into NXT. This kind of develops until 2018, Wrestle Kingdom 12, when I start to get into New Japan. Now I was really into NXT for a little while. Sasha Banks is my favorite wrestler. In 2015, especially the early part, is sort of her peak in NXT, maybe her peak in the entire company. Well, that's not going to change because it's not going to be that company in the near future, but we're very excited moving forward as Sasha Banks fans. If that is her real name or her true name moving forward. Probably won't be. So yeah, then 2018 it becomes a big New Japan mark. I watched, I feel like every New Japan show that year, all the dumb Korakuen nothing shows and everything. I would watch them all. And I did that basically all through 2019 as well. Obviously in 2019, AEW starts and I'm watching it all the way up until the pandemic hits, and then crowdless wrestling is the boringest thing in the world to me. It's literally pointless. If we were to say from now on there are no crowds in wrestling, I think I would just stop watching wrestling altogether. So much of the appeal of wrestling is crowd interaction and stuff like that. But yeah, as the crowds started coming back, and AEW was sort of the first to get on that bandwagon, well, we were back. So I do have like a hole in my AEW knowledge, which is like all the pandemic stuff, basically. I don't think I ever saw a Brody Lee AEW match. But yeah. Got a notification on my phone and I looked down, and we're not cutting this out because this is unscripted and I don't want to edit. But yeah, so I've sort of fallen off. I still have never really gotten as back into New Japan as I was back in that 2018-2019 period. I'll watch the big shows usually. But my God, they just need to let the crowds cheer again. Then I'll be back and watching a lot more shows. I don't think I'll ever get back to watching all the boring Korakuen shows. I'm just too busy now. But I definitely watch a lot more than I am now. Please, they need to announce that at Wrestle Kingdom everybody's going to be cheering. It's a big fucking dome, right? We ain't getting COVID. And if we are, fuck it. That's what we've decided as a fucking global society, I think, at this point. So AEW for the last year and a half has been the main show. During the pandemic I was watching WWE. Now my mother watches WWE, so I would usually watch it with her. She's always been a wrestling mark. My grandfather was a big wrestling mark, so that's how I got into it. Been watching wrestling since before I was born, etc. But then I fell off of WWE quite a bit, and I haven't watched Raw consistently for ages. I was watching it a little consistently after WrestleMania just for Cody, but then obviously he got injured, and even towards the back end of him not being injured, I feel like I wasn't watching full Raws. And then the first Triple H ones we were watching, but right now mostly I just catch up with Twitter clips. I watch the pay-per-views. AEW I still watch every show. Now I was even watching every Dark and every Rampage there for a little while. Recently I've stopped doing that. The Rampage seems to be getting bolstered a little bit, which is something we'll talk about. So maybe we'll have to watch Rampage. It's only been the last few weeks where I haven't been watching Rampage. I've just been getting busier, etc. But yeah, so that's kind of the wrestling history by way of Mr. Entertainment here. Big TNA mark is what you should take away from that. That'll tie into Jeff Jarrett, things we say later. That's just a kind of a history lesson, and it's a fun story or whatever. I liked telling it just now. I don't really have a good transition into talking about Dynamite. That's sort of my wrestling history, I guess. I guess the big thing is the best wrestling I ever watched was probably that New Japan period. And then the very early NXT stuff. NXT got a little away from itself for a little while. I do have some notes, and I do have the Bleacher Report. Proud partners of AEW. I have their report up just so I can follow through on all the little segments. Should we talk about AEW generally right now? Probably, before we talk about the first match, which is the Death Triangle Elite stuff. AEW was very good for a little while there. Are we learning slowly that it was all because of CM Punk? Perhaps. There was that 3 months before he showed up. That was pretty good too. I would say the word of today's, this isn't a stream, video, is perhaps momentum. And how AEW's biggest problem, perhaps, is with soiling momentum. This has kind of been their problem since the beginning, where we come into AEW and everybody's excited to see Kenny, basically, or at least that was my understanding of it, was basically it's the Kenny vehicle. That's why I gave a fuck, is because Kenny was the big New Japan guy, and now he's leaving. I've never been the biggest Kenny Omega mark. I used to have a ranking in my head of the top guys in New Japan at the beginning. I feel like Naito's always been my favorite. He's probably my second favorite wrestler ever. It's like him, Sasha, and Steve Austin, you go through him. So Naito was always first, Suzuki was second, Tanahashi was probably third, and then it would be Kenny and then Okada. Because how can he be an Okada mark? It's like being a Misawa mark. He just wins all the time. Boring. Get the loser in there. That's who we root for. Everybody likes Vegeta, right? There's a reason. Naito is our Vegeta. Nonetheless, I was still very interested. New company, fucking Kenny's going to be there. And then they just did nothing with Kenny until the pandemic when nobody was watching. And so it just feels like AEW Kenny Omega has never arrived. It's kind of frustrating. It kind of does feel like Kenny Omega died on January the 4th, 2019, and we're still waiting slowly for him to come back. Now, in recent weeks, it has slowly been getting better. Now, in that early period of when I got back into AEW post-pandemic, he was obviously doing his, like, belt collector gimmick, and he was trying to be, like, an old-school heel caricature parody type thing, and it was okay. And even his work then, like, he had that really good Christian match on, I think, the first Rampage. But other than that, I didn't really like any of his matches, even the Hangman one. The Hangman finish is really good, the pop there. When Hangman finally wins the title after all the build-up. That was good. But obviously Kenny was very hurt then. The point being is that Kenny Omega has sort of been the saddest tale of AEW. And I would assume AEW fans would disagree with this. And I assume Kenny himself would disagree with this. I know he was world champion for nearly a year or whatever. He's doing great. But for me, it's just... like, I was only interested in this company. I definitely would have watched it even if he wasn't there, but not nearly as intently or with as much interest. And, like, Kenny immediately comes into AEW, loses to Jericho, great, and then he gets stuck in a Park feud that goes on for a long time. Then he gets stuck in a Jon Moxley feud, and I'm not a very big Jon Moxley fan at all. And then what did he do? Then he gets put in a Hangman tag team to do Young Bucks matches, and that match is great. But even still then, he's like the secondary dude in the tag team to the cool new dude who used to be the Bullet Club, like, job guy that nobody cared about and was the least interesting signing in this company. Now he's the most over guy. I loved him too. Hangman was on fucking fire at the beginning, chugging beers and stuff. He's the most over guy on the fucking roster, and now Kenny's playing second fiddle straight man to him as sort of a background piece. And, like, we're supposed to care about him and the Young Bucks potentially fighting. Then we go into pandemic stuff and I'm not watching. And eventually he turns actual heel after going through this Hangman tag run. And then he becomes world champion, but it's like as this weird heel character. And he's feuding with Moxley again. And then he goes into an Orange Cassidy feud, I think. Pac comes back. Then Christian. Then Hangman again. It's just like... all these cool things we could have done with Kenny, and we've wasted 5 fucking years, or 3 years, or however long it's been. And now we're back to a Pac feud with the Lucha Brothers, though this is okay. I like this for now. The big problem is, like, we didn't want to pull the trigger on the CM Punk stuff too early, and now that's never going to happen, seemingly, which is the biggest miss this company will ever have. Like, we could do Kenny Eddie, we could do Kenny MJF, we could have done Kenny Cody. It feels like we've missed out on all these potentially cool ideas. Like, I commonly think, like, just do a Kenny Keith Lee match or something before Keith Lee goes back to WWE or whatever the fuck he wants to do. Do the Kenny fucking Malachi Black match. And he's not doing any jobs in these fucking matches. He's winning all of them. Too many jobs he was doing, and same with the Young Bucks at the beginning of this company. Same with Cody. They all didn't want to seem to be greedy bosses, and they all should have been. But yeah, so there's been some issues with this AEW stuff with Kenny from the beginning. The good part is, this is momentum. They sort of killed the forward momentum they initially had with, like, oh my god, Kenny Omega's the greatest wrestler of all time. We all gotta watch his shit. How exciting. And then he just shows up on TV and he has... people liked those Puck matches, I guess. I was just whatever on them, but they felt so... like, I guess it's... Kenny Omega should not be the good hand on the show giving good matches. He should be the fucking star. And it felt like sort of a mid-card feud with an undercard, let-go WWE guy. And I love Pac. I think he should have gotten the Moxley spot earlier this year and been world champion, because it'll probably never happen for him otherwise. And him and Tanahashi in the main event, I'm not a very big Moxley guy, if you can't tell. The point is, Kenny came back and he had momentum because everybody's interested. He's with the Bucks. We're getting these trios titles. They win. Obviously, the all-out thing happens. CM Punk has to leave. Not very happy about that. Nonetheless, Kenny's gone for a little while again, and then we get another return. Now he's got the cool new song now. Sing along to wrestling theme songs, the greatest fucking thing in professional wrestling. If you go to a show, it's definitely the highlight of the show is to sing along to this song or Judas or whatever the fuck. So yeah, they have momentum right now. Now we've kind of settled ourselves. We probably should have done best of 5. I feel like they have a plan to make every match interesting, and I'm sure all the matches will be good. But after we do this, obviously the Elite are going to win. They're down to a 3-1 or whatever after tonight's match. The next 3 are going to be gimmick matches, which I'm sure will make them even cooler. But please, can we get Kenny away from this? Put the world title back on him as a babyface, and let's move forward. Why haven't we done Kenny and Jericho again yet? Like, Jericho's not getting any younger. Nonetheless, Kenny's been put in a corner a little bit in this fucking company. And we need to take him out of the corner. Like Kenny and Christian. What a clever, cool, cute idea. Something we'll look back on in 10 years and being like, Kenny and Christian really had a 3-month feud, fucking pay-per-view main event. Isn't that cool to think about? But yes, momentum. And we'll talk about momentum also because I want to talk about week-to-week momentum regarding Dynamite and how it falters a lot. Which is kind of the biggest problem outside of momentum is that this roster is too big. But we'll talk about that too as we progress. I guess we should talk about the match. Do I remember anything from this match? Finish with the hammer shot. Nick Jackson hurt his ankle. It was a cute little sell job they did. Matches don't matter. This in-ring nonsense. That's not what we got to talk about here. Or not the interesting things to talk about here. Obviously, I'm almost certain the Elite are going to win this best of 7 series. Obviously, they're coming back. It's kind of clever that they didn't just do the generic thing of having them go 3 down and then win 3 and then win the last one, where they sort of had that one in between. Cute. We're setting up. We've still got the Rey Fenix. Doesn't like the hammer spot. I don't know. I don't think they're going to do a split, and if they do a split, it's going to be Pac on his own. The Death Triangle entrance is also so cool. I guess after they've been Trios champions, there's not really much more to do with them as a trio. So maybe we could be going in that direction. Lucha Brothers have also already been tag champions. I know, I could see them getting a little stale and us really not knowing what to do with them, because neither one of them are going to really be single stars, I don't think, even though they both had the potentiality to be it. But I think the perception of them, especially from an AEW fan's perspective, is that they are a tag, and if they are in singles, it'll feel like the Young Bucks are in singles matches, where it's just sort of a filler good match to have on a card. Even Pac, I don't know where we go with him. Like, he's probably never going to be world champion. This is another big problem with AEW overall, is they don't seem to have directions for individual people. It seems like when Tony Khan comes up with a feud, he plans the feud out very well. And for big stars, he might even have the next feud planned. This recent period with MJF has been excellent, where he's feuding with 5 people at a time, and sort of putting it on the back burner, each of them individually has worked. He mentioned Eddie in a promo. I assume the Mox thing has to come back around. Unless Mox loses to Hangman. In that case, Hangman would probably be a number 1 contender. There was the Ricky thing from the tournament, and obviously there's the Bryan stuff that happened after the match, after the main event, and was teased with the Regal stuff. Plus, you had the Regal aspect in there for a little while. So there's a lot going on with MJF, which is good. The point is, there's a lot of forward direction there, even thinking ahead to what feuds MJF is going to have as champion. They probably had to plan that out as part of MJF's new deal, I'm guessing. But nonetheless, getting back to Pac and the Lucha Brothers, it doesn't feel like we have a forward direction for them, because it feels like a lot of the forward directions in this company is all right, they're going to win the championships, and then that's sort of it. What are FTR really going to do? I guess after they beat the Ass Boys, they're going to probably challenge the Acclaim again and then win. But what are the Acclaimed going to do after they lose the titles? It doesn't feel like there's a forward direction. I guess this Rey Fenix storyline is the forward direction of what they're going to be doing afterwards. But it feels like there's a ceiling. Pac had that All Atlantic Championship for a little while, and that could have become his belts, but then he dropped it. And And that did pay off the Orange Cassidy feud, which is cute. But even then, there's not like... Pac is probably, again, never going to be world champion. So there's no like forward direction. He's not aiming anywhere. Like the Orange Cassidy stuff is probably the only like leftover residual feud. His company's not necessarily good at coming up with things on the fly. Like if he just starts to get into a feud with like Jungle Boy or something, or another babyface, I don't know. I find this problem a lot in the women's division too, where it's, again, I feel like in the tag division, the women's division, sort of the mid-card, this is a bigger problem, because it's just like, well, you build them up, they get over, they win the belt, and then nothing. Look at what happened with Thunder Rosa. She was really over. Then she wins the belt from Britt. Then I think she did a Nyla feud. Then a Marina Shafir feud. Then she wrestled Tony a little bit, and the Serena Deeb stuff. But none of that set the world on fire. The Serena Deeb match was good. The Tony Storm match really wasn't. The rest of them just feel like, filler heel defenses. Because really the only other star was Britt. Now, they kind of did a good job at making Tony a star in her absence. But again, it's just sort of we don't really have a direction character-wise. The character-wise is sort of, we win the belt, and then the belt is the story. And maybe these belts should be props after all. Nonetheless, the entrance is cool. The Elite are going to come back. These matches are pretty good, and it's at least something. I guess we'll talk about both promos at once, because I thought they were both kind of bad. We had dueling, this also ties into momentum. We had dueling MJF and Ricky Starks promos to hype up, obviously, the main event. This is something AEW has to do more of. Now, I thought both of these were bad, but the idea here is good. It should have been 30 seconds from each of them, instead of 3 minutes from each of them, where these wrestling promos, especially contemporaneously, that try to tell stories like this, like we're doing 80s promos, are bad. Now, everything is kind of bad about MJF because he's trying to do 80s stuff, but we'll talk about the fundamental problem with MJF in a second. I was thinking about this as the show was opening. I'm like, we should start with MJF walking into the arena, and AEW needs to do more locker room. Now, they kind of did this with Ricky Starks as he was warming up a little bit, but I was thinking AEW also misses out on the little character moments, which kind of annoy me. Something I really loved about New Japan, and I think is the defining thing about why New Japan is great, and it's not really the matches or anything, it is the character work in New Japan, because it feels so unscripted that, old rivals will be in a random tag on a Korakuen show, and they'll have a little interaction, and it'll be because the two wrestlers remember it. It probably isn't even coming from the bookers that, remember to, tease the old feud again. Naito and Tanahashi are just going to get in the ring and do some of their old spots, and everybody's going to be like, remember that feud? And love it. The biggest issue of this in recent memory was when Anna Jay just left the Dark Order, and I think Johnny Hungy and the gang were just on the same Dynamite episode, and they didn't say anything about it, and they never did. Anna Jay, even for months after that, had the Join Us thing in her entrance music, and that didn't get changed. That could have been such a cute little character moment as after Anna Jay turns. I don't remember the turn exactly. Or it might even be the week afterwards and they cut a promo and they're like, and Anna Jay's our newest member, and she cut a little bit of a promo. What if Johnny Hungy just comes out and is sad about that, and then him and Jericho have a match on Rampage that week or something? It could have been heat for Anna Jay, could have got the Dark Order on TV, because we seemingly can't find a single way to get that done. It's so annoying to me. And tonight could have been cute if you have a backstage and Ricky's warming up and fucking Hook walks over to him and hugs him or something. And then Taz walks over and says, hey, I like MJF, but Ricky, this is your night or whatever. Just little character moments like that. Have fucking Brian Cage walk up and say that he's rooting for him or something. These little character details that just sort of get missed, that could be interesting. That get mixed... lost in the mix, I think, is what I'm trying to say. So I thought about that. I thought that could have been cute. And again, this is better than usual, because a lot of the time they will build up to a big main event match, but they'll have no mention but the announcers previews until the main event match happens with previous TV title matches. Not for the TV title, but TV world title matches, though with TV titles and everything like that as well. They just sort of let Dynamite feels like an unconnected show, and people used to complain about this a lot with the Cody stuff and how the Cody stuff felt like it was in its own universe and never interacted with anything else, which was true to an extent, and it was a little frustrating. At this point, Dynamite like entirely feels like that. I was thinking about this in regards to Renee Young promos, and people compare Renee to like Mean Gene Okerlund, or saying she could be the next Mean Gene because she's really good at interviews, and she is pretty good. The AEW interviews are similarly terrible to the WWE ones. Like that Lexi Nair girl has all the same personality issues that any of the WWE girls ever had, where it's just like a vapid question and she has like no personality. If you go back and you watch those Mean Gene interviews, he is a character on the show. And when like they pass to him, he will have like a little intro that references what just happened. And AEW tries to do this sometimes, but it's always corny and feels so fake. But like if a heel attacked somebody, I feel like they cut back to Mean Gene and he's going off about how despicable it is. I feel like if you did that in contemporaneous wrestling, it would just come off as so corny and like, yeah, this is some fake shit. You don't have to actually be mad about it. I always feel that way when the announcers try to like, what a dastardly attack by MJF or whatever. It's like, shut the fuck up. This shit's fake. Which is obviously something you don't have to deal with in the 80s because kayfabe is more alive than the dead carcass we drag around in wrestling nowadays. But she should reference other things as she does it. She should have a more natural seeming intro. It shouldn't be like, yeah, I'm here with Hook. Here's a generic WWE question. And then I awkwardly stand here. Like, she should infuse more personality into it, which we know she can do because we've seen her do it in the past. Sort of like how she would do in, I don't think she was on Raw Talk. What was the SmackDown one called? Talking Smack or whatever. More like that. And it should be more relaxed, the interviews. Especially if Ricky's like sitting there putting his tape on. It could be more relaxed and less like wrestling promo where it's like sentence pause, sentence pause, sentence pause. But yeah, these backstage segments were they're both trying to get the match over and trying to, like MJF's trying to say like, I have no pressure on me or whatever and you're going to reveal yourself to be a failure. If this had happened by the 80s, I'm sure Ric Flair and Roddy Piper have cut this exact same promo before and it would have been great then. But wrestling's fake and everybody knows it now. So it just comes off as like, yeah, Max, we all know you're going to win. Like the story is not really the point of this match. So nonetheless, I don't know, I guess promos like that feel insulting to your intelligence because it's like, don't try to sell this like this. It's just bad. Like, shit talk him so we can all go, ooh, and like we did last week. And I feel like Ricky in his later one, his delivery just wasn't that good, and he was trying to sort of tap into the energy he had last week, but it just wasn't, he was a little off. Ricky because Ricky is, you can tell that Ricky's promos are always unscripted, and they're kind of hit and miss, especially with the punchlines, which I think is just a thing like you get through practice, I think. So I guess this is a good learning step for Ricky, but tonight's promo wasn't the best. But yeah, those promos, we should have more interconnected little character moments that are cute. Yeah. Like even the MJF one later, it was him like getting a massage and checking his phone. It's like, oh, he's trying to be like, it's just a heelish like, but it feels like most of the old MJF stuff was like banked on it kind of being funny, and that was an old MJF thing where it's supposed to be like funny that he's just like ignoring you and on his phone. We didn't talk about the fundamental issue with MJF, which sort of transitions into this, and that heels are a completely outdated concept and entirely worthless in wrestling nowadays. And I think earlier I said that the biggest missed opportunity in this company's history is probably not having CM Punk and Kenny main event a pay-per-view. Actually, the biggest missed opportunity is probably how they fucked up MJF in the last few months. And I assume it's a call from him not wanting to go babyface, but just like, we're literally back doing the old MJF stuff, and it's still as bad as it was then. And it's all good, kind of, in a delivery angle. Like, He has great delivery on the mic, except for that Regal promo a few weeks ago where he kind of lost it and the crowd really didn't care, and the crowd didn't react to his WWE line because they had no idea who Saint Nick was. And like 3 or 4 times throughout the long fucking promo, he had to do a fake interjection where he pretended somebody in the crowd called something out, and he'd be like, "I got the microphone," or "Fat boy," or whatever. And he was kind of falling apart there. But outside of that, the fundamental problem. MJF is not over as a heel. Nobody actually dislikes MJF. And nobody actually dislikes any heel anymore, unless it's for wrong reasons. Heat is it's so fake. Because AEW crowds are fake. Because they're NXT crowds. Because they're pretending to boo the heels. It's like when the NXT crowd pretended to boo the Revival, they pretended to boo Tommaso Ciampa. Like, nobody actually dislikes Ciampa in this entire fucking takeover building. So the fake heat, it's because the crowd knows wrestling's fake, they know what they're trying to do, and so they are, out of respect, booing the heel and cheering the babyface in those Johnny Gargano Ciampa matches, and in all those old Revival matches. And they did it for a little while with, this is MJF's entire existence. There's nobody that's ever going to pay to see MJF lose. Now, people say this about heels in old school wrestling, and I can't look at the figures to see if this is real, but they would say people would pay to see Ric Flair lose or whatever, or good heels. They get people into the building because they want to see him get beaten up. I don't know if I ever believed that was the case, and I absolutely would not believe that contemporaneously. There is nobody that's buying a ticket to an AEW show to see that MJF get his comeuppance. And even in like the suspend your disbelief stuff, nobody suspends their disbelief for wrestling besides the fucking actual wrestling part. So MJF is sort of redundant, and he is a TV draw, but I think that's just because he's good at doing the fake heel shit. There's no mainstream appeal with MJF as a heel as he was now. Now, this fucking greatest babyface of all time shtick, and even, like, the Los Angeles Dynamite, obviously that promo is the best thing he's ever done, and it'll probably be the best thing he ever does, and I don't think he'll ever get back there because he spoiled his opportunity. Even if he turns babyface in the future, there will never be an opportunity like that again. Now, maybe Punk ruined this, and he was going to be the babyface in the Punk feud, but I don't know. Yeah, so we're literally back to step 1 with MJF, except he's a little better at it all. I guess he's a little better at promos now, at his generic heel promo, that, again, does nothing. There was even an issue last week where the Pebble thing almost got over and almost fucked everything up. If Ricky hadn't cut a great promo afterwards, I feel like Ricky would have been killed in the water. It's not killed in the water, it's dead on arrival, I think is the saying I was looking for. Because some of the lines MJF has are actually good. But, he has to realize that when you actually have good lines, you're the babyface now. Like, when Steve Austin started being funny, and when The Rock started being funny and cool, and actually hitting home with their insults on their less than fortunate opponents, that's when they became babyfaces. And the only way we switched Rock back heel for a little while was to put him against Austin. And then fuck it, for the rest of their careers, both of them were forever babyfaces, or they were fucking up heel runs. Or the Hollywood Rock stuff, which is cute. And obviously MJF knows this, because he's trying to tap into the Hollywood Rock stuff. But nobody gives a fuck if MJF leaves for Hollywood. Nobody thinks anybody sells out anymore. So it's another sort of fake attempt to get fake heat that's just annoying. Nobody's paying to see MJF get beat up. People probably would have paid to see babyface MJF kill all these ex-WWE guys, but we've abandoned that entirely. There was so much potential there. It was literally the CM Punk thing in 2011. We talk about the WWE fucking up the summer of Punk. At least they kind of got there. And then Punk was a big star forever thereafter. AEW fucked up the not even summer of MJF massively. Remember when he was gone and every week it was like, man, MJF's going to come back this week, and it wasn't happening and we were all excited? It's the only time I've ever been excited for any MJF stuff. But we thrown it away, and now he's doing generic bad guy stuff that's not going to serve anybody well, I don't think. I think the ratings have kind of reflected that, right? We had 2 very low Dynamite ratings since MJF has been world champion. There's also the problem that he's very small, and sort of seeing him as the world heavyweight champion is kind of funny. And sort of having a world heavyweight championship match where it's him and Ricky Starks is a little like, we're begging for the the WWE guys to like laugh at this as Roman versus Braun or whatever is their main event for their world title. That's very low down on the issues of potential problems here. I'm reading this Bleacher Report. MJF's backstage promo was compelling and full of venom. He ran down Ricky Starks ahead of tonight's main event, which infuriated some fans and intensified their desire to see a new world champion. I don't think so, pal. I don't think so. And even if it did, it's all fake heat. The fake heat is such a big problem because I see everybody, especially Vince was, I guess in WWE there is a potential. The WWE, it's so fascinating what the WWE has done to their audience, where literally all the smarks are in AEW or something. Because on every WWE show, the babyfaces get cheered and the heels get booed. And it's been that way since the crowds came back. And it's like insane to me that they somehow killed off their entire fan base of like smarks, and they're all in AEW, it seems. Like, even the AEW fans turned on Cody, and they've turned on some things sometimes. They're a little bit more cynical. The WWE crowd, I guess, is just families and shit now that love this fucking stuff. Though this WWE nonsense really does kind of suck. Just generally. I don't think there's ever any saving WWE TV. Triple H is trying, I guess, and all the pay-per-views he's done so far has been pretty good, except for War Games. I thought that one was kind of bad, the entire card. But yeah, I don't know. Like, the Sami Zayn stuff is funny, I guess, but outside of that, what's happening on WWE TV right now? That, I don't know. It's just, we ain't here to shit on the WWE. We could do that all day. B- for the match. A+ for MJF's promo. My goodness. Get me out of here. So, next we have the Acclaimed. The Acclaimed were great, and they've kind of been less great since they've won the titles. This is kind of the meme, but for whatever reason, Billy Gunn has become the central focus of this. When Billy Gunn was not the reason these guys were over at all. The Scissor Me Daddy Ass thing was funny, but it wasn't funny because Billy Gunn did anything. It was funny because of Bowens. And even, like, Max Caster is clearly the star here because he does a rap that's funny when he comes to the ring and shits on people and has big lines for the whole crowd to go ooh at. And, like, the raps haven't been as good recently because they're baby faces, and the funniest lines were always them shitting on the town somehow, like the Chicago murder rate or any of the, and I guess there haven't been a lot of wrestling news things for them to comment on. But the raps kind of have to be edgy to get over. Now, as we know, we don't want them to get too edgy out here because we might get suspended again. But, yeah, they've kind of been lacking, and the babyface turn might be this. The scissoring stuff makes me cringe a little bit now because it's so played out. Like, they have the shirts. There was one segment where it was particularly terrible. I think it was the National Scissoring Day segment. I think it is partially the thing where it's like, I thought it was cool before it was cool, and now, like, the whole crowd is chanting. It's like, fuck these idiots. Now that it's cool. Now, this isn't just a contrarian thing, because I feel like the crowd will catch up to me, where they'll get over the scissoring thing. And I could see them turning on the Acclaimed. And as soon as the Acclaimed drop these belts, again, it's another forward direction thing, where I don't know where they go from there. I had the idea that they could have lost to FTR last week, I guess they did that match, or they could have waited till the next pay-per-view to do the FTR match. They lose, and then sort of their story is like it takes them a few months to get back to the FTR match, and they actually have to train to prove that they might be the best tag team in the world or whatever. Or they had the character stuff and the gimmick that was all over, but they have to actually prove themselves as wrestlers, and that's kind of a forward direction for them to hunt the belts back and then get them back. But no, they beat FTR. And now they're moving on to seemingly defending against probably Jay Lethal and Jeff Jarrett, I'm assuming. Even though Jay Lethal and Satnam have been doing some tag matches on Dark, as I understand. I've seen some of them. The it's interesting because the Jeff Jarrett thing verges on having go away heat, but I also like Jeff Jarrett. Again, I'm a TNA mark. I feel like Jay Lethal came in and he's been the least good part of Dynamite. Every time he shows up, he's just sort of doing a match, and this, like, we had that Samoa Joe feud that went on for fucking 3 months, and then the Sting and Darby stuff was okay because Sting and Darby are cool. Like, I really like Jay Lethal, but I feel like his AEW run, again, there's sort of no momentum, and he was sort of just a babyface, an aimless babyface for a little while. Then we turned him heel, and then he sort of just became a generic heel. When he talks, it's kind of good, but he never gets to talk enough. Also on the momentum front, and I kind of teased this, but again, the roster's so big that this is hard, but it sort of has to be an every week thing. And you have to sort of disregard Rampage because nobody watches Rampage. So sort of like the characters you want to get over have to be on Dynamite every week. Like the Acclaimed really, really got over when they started being on Dynamite every week. Same with Ricky. Like, Ricky has to be on Dynamite next week. Like, this is what's probably going to happen with Ricky Starks with AEW booking. He got really over last week. It sort of peaked with his overness. It came into this week. It made the main event match way better than it would have been otherwise. It made this whole match feel bigger than it would otherwise. And it felt bigger than most of the other filler title defenses we've had. It felt like a big deal, even though everybody knew Ricky wasn't winning. What's going to happen next week is he's going to come out, cut a promo about how he nearly did it and he wants to get back. And then fucking QT Marshall's going to come out. Or it won't even be him because we did one. When I was thinking about this earlier and I had a better example. The Firm is going to come out. Worse than The Factory. And he's going to have like a 2-week feud with Lee Moriarty. And he's going to win 2 matches against him. But one of them's going to be on Rampage. And the other one's going to happen 3 weeks later because we're going to do slight video packages in between. Or there's going to be an injury angle. And because it's logical. In Tony Khan's mind, it's like, well, Ricky came off a thing. He needs a win. This is sort of a Lee Moriarty, sort of an up-and-coming dude. We can have him beat him. Or even Ethan Page again, even though we just did that. So we probably wouldn't go back to that well. But somebody of that equivalent, he'll beat him again. But, like, no. He needs to feud with Jericho next week. Like, that's where we have to go. Now, it seems like Jericho is going to be preoccupied. But, like, it has to be somebody of that caliber. And they're all sort of caught up with other stuff. Like, I can't think of a heel that's not occupied right now. Like, Jericho is going to be doing the thing with, I forget the bloke's name, but whoever it was on thingy, on Dynamite tonight. Like, MJF is preoccupied. The House of Black seems to be doing another thing, and that's not really a good fit. Honestly, you probably should have saved the Jay Lethal Jeff Jarrett thing for him, because at least that would get TV time. But the point is, he's going to go back down the card, and then he's sort of going to fizzle out. And then in 3 months, he's going to get a win or something, and we're going to remember, oh yeah, Ricky Starks, and then he'll be in a TV championship match. What do we call it? The TNT championship match? Or something, and we're going to be like, yeah, Ricky's back, and he's always going to be sort of this mundane level of over. It's sort of the Darby Allin effect, where it's sort of like he gets his Sting match every pay-per-view, but outside of that, he's really done nothing in like 2 years. And he doesn't really have any momentum. That's what I foresee happening. He's like, we're not going to bury Ricky Starks because we still want to push him. I just don't think they're competent in doing that. He has to be like, it had to be the Jericho thing. It just felt like Jericho's coming off this thing. Jericho's going to be on TV every week. Jericho's above Ricky Starks in the card. If he beats him, he'll be good. Also, I just remembered, fucking Eddie is still not on this fucking show. Like, did him slapping Sammy Guevara really do this much? Why is this prick not on the show? He's obviously the best bloke on the roster. And we're killing... He made me cry for Jun Akiyama. It was my first Jun Akiyama match I'd ever actually seen, besides clips on Walking Over King's Road. And I'm crying over here on a fucking pre-show. Then he grabs the mic and puts over the fucking rest of the card. He's a company man, and he still can't get on this fucking show. And I'm looking at Brian Cage right now versus fucking Jungle Boy. Can you believe this shit? My goodness, really? Fucking Eddie Kingston can't get on this program, but I'm watching The Embassy. No offense, these Embassy guys are all right. So Jeff Jarrett and the Acclaimed seems to be where we're going. They cut off the rap. The rap wasn't that good. We need to get better raps back. It's hard. to be a babyface that raps. I actually rewatched the 2003 Royal Rumble, I think 2 days ago, just randomly, because I felt like it, because I hadn't seen it in a while, and I'm a big Royal Rumble mark, and I've seen it all a million times. And I was curious about the early structure of that one, because it's kind of interesting. Or like the Edge and Christian stuff. Ray's even in there for a little bit, but it ends up just being Jericho by himself at the start, and then Jericho by himself at the end. The early Shawn Michaels jump. Very interesting Royal Rumble match, the 2003 Rumble. That tied in somehow. And I don't even remember what I was talking about. Oh! John Cena had a rap at the beginning, like when he entered in that match, his first ever Rumble. What a young lad he was. And he had he rapped for a minute. Like, he had so many lines. Now, none of them were any good. I think the last one was it was about a penis, and they always were with the old Cena raps. Cena was an absolutely terrible rapper, and the Thugonomics gimmick was absolutely terrible. And people like to pretend it was good now. My biggest talking point, if I do more wrestling content, is that John Cena is still terrible and the worst thing that ever happened to WWE. And I hate that we've just forgotten this now because we bled away all the cynical anti-Cena fans. And it's just families now. Or dudes with nostalgia that are my age for John Cena when he was younger. John Cena is still terrible in everything he's ever done. Nonetheless, he was doing fucking a minute and a half of rapping. And all Max has got to do is, I think, 8 lines. We can make these raps a little better. I guess, again, it's a filler defense. They're going to beat Jeff Jarrett. Jeff Jarrett is a good promo. He looks great. He could beat the fuck out of MJF and Ricky Starks. Look at those massive fucking old man arms he's got. My World is the greatest theme song to ever exist. We should be singing that one too. Jay Lethal just hasn't hit in AEW, and I don't know how to change it. Let him cut more promos, I guess. This whole show could use a lot more promos. Again, this fake fighting shit needs to go. We need promos, entrances, video packages. That's what wrestling is about. Not this shit. It's a fucking entrance and a finisher, as the people say. Speaking of that, I'm pretty sure I skipped through, because I don't watch Dynamite live, because it's on at a weird time in Australia, and I was out today. But yeah, I skipped through most of the Jungle Boy, Brian Cage match. I don't have to watch this shit. Jungle Boy is another one where it's like, even his promos recently have been good, and Jungle Boy feels like he has momentum, but it feels like this is us halting it. Like, Big Bill, I don't know, he looks great, but obviously we're biding time. Like, Luchasaurus is going to come back eventually, and when he's selling his injuries from the cage, unless he's actually hurt. I don't think so, though. Because obviously we need the blow-off Christian match, but Christian's still fucked up, and he had whatever surgery he had on his arm or his shoulder or his elbow or something. And I think we're all hoping he'll be back for the next pay-per-view. Jungle Boy can beat him, and then we can move forward. Taking a drink. Yeah, what were we talking about? So Jungle Boy doesn't have a lot of, we're killing his momentum. Even his promos have been good. He's cutting 15-word promos, but they're all good. The delivery's good. Obviously the big meme for a long time was that Jungle Boy stutters every time he cuts a promo. Now that was a Max Caster line that we need to bring fucking back. Not to shit on, I'm saying we need lines like that. I'm not shitting on Jungle Boy. Now I probably would have shit on Jungle Boy a little bit a year ago, but he's shown something recently. But again, I guess in Tony Khan's booking philosophy, having him win matches on TV is getting him over. But it's not. Nobody's going to remember this match. Wins and losses don't matter. And, I don't know. We, cut a promo, do an angle. This company's got 2 angles. It's got post-match beatdown, it's got tag team breakup. We really don't need to see any more breakups. There was a hilarious 2-week stretch in Dynamite where there were 4 breakups. It was the Hobbs Ricky Starks one. I think it might have been the Jungle Boy Luchasaurus one, and there might have been a women's one too. And it was just the only storyline in this fucking company is teams breaking up. I think that around that time was the Adam Cole Kenny Omega one. It's just but again, Jungle Boy beat up post match. Oh, actually, an interesting thing I completely forgotten that actually was cool was then Hook came out. Which seemingly came out of nowhere. Hook's another one that kind of has momentum, but you kind of just forget about him for months at a time because he's on Rampage or he's on Dark or he's just not on TV. Now, obviously, Hook is still really green. He can't actually work a match. Another big problem is that AEW doesn't know how to train wrestlers on the fly. Like, Jade and Hook aren't going to get any better doing squash matches, and nobody seems to understand this. I feel like they should just make Dark an actual Dark show that doesn't get put on YouTube and isn't, like, part of AEW canon. So you could just run, like, Sky Blue and Jade Cargill for 12 minutes. 2 times every fucking taping. Do it before the show and after the show. Just so she can get better, and Hook is like that too. Because Hook trying to sell looks really bad at the moment. But yeah, all we're doing is promos. Like, he has, like, all of his offense looks pretty good, but even then, we haven't seen him in a match that goes more than 5 minutes. Him and Jungle Boy, they're both the cutest little boys in all of AEW's. The girls, if we had any female AEW fans, would be going wild right now at the thought of this hookup, this team up. It's interesting. Hook should be on TV more. He's over. Jungle Boy's over. We sing his song too. I don't know. Just momentum, build on it. But even then, like, Hook's not going to do anything for 3 years that isn't defend this fucking FTW title, which he's never going to lose, which means there's not much interest there, and he's going to be stuck on pay-per-view pre-shows. Which, again, he's kind of really green, but then, like, he's one of the most over guys on the roster, so we're kind of getting fucked from every angle here. And Jungle Boy, like, at some point in the MJF title reign, we've got to do the 4-way with the pillars. It'll probably be a TV title defense. What should happen is all of them should win at the next pay-per-view. I assume the pay-per-view match is probably going to be MJF and Wardlow, just because that's an easy filler defense, and because, I don't know. The people, I guess, still like Wardlow, but Wardlow kind of is bad. Wardlow's another massive missed opportunity where it's like, well, he sure was over with that MJF stuff, but everything else he does is kind of awkward and bad. Jungle Boy's probably going to beat Christian. Darby can have a singles match against, who is he feuding with recently? Have him have a rematch with Joe after Wardlow beats Joe for the title back and he wins. And then have Sammy beat fucking Daniel Bryan or whoever. Somebody boring. They all win at the pay-per-view. They all come out the next Dynamite. It'll be cute to see them all interact in promos after MJF is celebrating his victory. You can set up a few weeks later for one of your in-between title defenses and do the 4-way. It's got to happen. That's because I was about to say that preempted this was like, oh, Jungle Boy's another one. Where is he going to go? Because he's not winning and they have a problem with these pillars, and I think, again, part of the logical Tony Khan brain is just like, we have a lot of young guys and we have to put them on TV so they get better. But, like, they have too many young guys at this point because they've got these original 4, and MJF is world champion, but none of the other 3 are ever going to win the world title anytime soon. Darby's probably the closest one. But I don't see them doing it anytime soon. Sammy is, like, kind of bad. And Jungle Boy is good, but, like, I don't see him ever being world champion, but I assume he'll get there eventually. But even then, it's still, like, 5 years down the line. And then we've also got this new crop of, like, Wheeler Yuta, Daniel Garcia, Lee Moriarty, Dante Martin, I guess, etc. But all of those guys, all of them that I just named, with the exception of MJF, have lacked forward direction the whole time. Like, Wheeler Yuta got really over, and then he just started having matches on TV, or he'd be off TV, and he sort of petered out entirely. There was a time where Yuta would come out, and he had his new cool entrance theme, and he'd get one of the biggest pops in the night. And everyone would chant Yuta, Yuta in the fucking tag matches when he's got fucking Moxley and Claudio there, too. Claudio is another one who had momentum, but, like, it's completely stamp it out. Dante Martin, that was an interesting thing, because they were saying this in the main event, like, we've had 3 previous winters coming Dynamite Diamond Ring matches, and there was, like, the first one was Hangman, and then the second one was Orange Cassidy. It's like, oh, those 2 became stars, and it's like, a year ago it was Dante Martin. It's like, man, Dante Martin's been in the middle of, like, this fake, like, push that gets undermined at every second turn for, like, a year and a half now. Like, there's absolutely no forward direction with that guy, and he's just sort of teetering, and it was probably more over, like, a few months ago, and now it's just like, yeah, again, the momentum problem. And the main problem is that the roster is just too big. And, like, it boggles my mind, like, this Jericho dude was cool, I guess, but do we need another dude that's going to be on TV now every week? I assume they have massive plans for him. If he beat Jericho, and he obviously is going to be the central point of, like, promos for a few weeks. I assume he's, like, a main guy that they have high hopes for, that they want to turn into a star. Unless this is, like, a James Ellsworth situation. Like, his gear was too good for him to have just been a random jobber. I realized that immediately, and I'm like, I assume what we're doing here, he's going to come very close, and then he's going to get signed afterwards or something. But they actually had him win. Now, at some point, the match dragged on for so long where you're like, oh, obviously he's going to win. That was a good segment. We're not up to that yet. But, like, why are we re-signing Angelico? Like, I'm not even saying this to shit on Angelico. I actually think he's pretty cool. But, like, why would he... I guess it's just money. Like, he has to know that Tony Khan is never going to do anything with him, and he's just going to be on Dark every week. Like, that has to make you want to, like, kill yourself, right? Being on Dark every week. And it's just, like... It's so overcluttered. Like, why didn't he actually just let Brian Cage go? And, like, I'm sure Brian Cage would get signed by the WWE. He'd fucking be NXT champion or some shit, or he'd be on the main roster already. Like, you're never going to do anything with Brian Cage. Like, there was a time for that, and it was in that pandemic era or shortly afterwards, and you just did absolutely nothing with it. There's other dudes that, like, just let Andrade go. Just let Keith Lee go. Keith Lee is a hard one because he's probably going to go to WWE and be a massive star, so I get if you want to hang on to him. But, like, Andrade's not going to do anything here. He's not going to do anything in WWE. Rush is another one where it's like... Rush is really talented, and I did like him in Ring of Honor, and I do want to see him sort of do more stuff with Naito, but, like, is AEW ever going to do anything with him besides be, like, a mid-level heel faction leader while Andrade's gone or not coming back or whatever? It's just, like, there's so many mid-level heel factions that just get, like, groaners from me whenever they're on screen. The Rush faction is like that. The Firm is the worst at this, where it's just, like, does anybody care about any of this? I think it was in this segment where Malcolm Bivens comes out. Is that his name or is that his old name? Stokely Hathaway might be his actual name now. This dude tries to make everything a meme. Everything he says, he sort of says it in a goofy enough fashion where it's like he's trying to unnaturally make a meme where it's like he's saying it. Like, what was the line to now? It was something about pissed off and something. And then he had that old one where it was the Dick Rider line with Jon Moxley, and it was just horribly see-through and horribly cringe. I know people like this dude. I didn't watch any of his NXT stuff because, my God, am I not watching NXT 2.0 or whatever the fuck. And I haven't seen any of his indie stuff either, but he's been a total miss in AEW so far. I assume he is good because people like him enough. But you shouldn't be a Dick Rider without a license. It was just like, it's basically him begging on Twitter, like, please make this into a meme. And I even saw the shitty, like, wrestling, like, Twitter accounts that you see on Twitter all the time that get a lot of tweets and shit. They were like, man, that was a really funny bit where he said, like, the Dick Rider thing, and it would get, like, 1.2k likes. And you just knew it was, like, everybody's trying to will this to be a thing, but it's just so lame and uncool that it's not going to be a thing. And sure enough, nobody's heard this Dick Rider shit since that, like, everybody forgot it after 5 minutes. And he said something about being the pissiest off or something. I forget the exact line, but it was another one where it's like, man. Like, he even did a RIP New Jack joke, and, like, that should be the greatest thing ever. We all love New Jack. The greatest fucking bloke to ever exist. That OJ promo, hilarious shit. And even that I was like, that's kind of cringe. And that wasn't cool at all. I think I hate New Jack now. This is kind of sad too, because I do like Lee Moriarty. I like his entrance music, and again, that's all that matters in wrestling. He does some cool technical wrestling stuff too, or whatever. He's a total babyface, completely miscast as a heel. And Big Bill, I've kind of always liked. Big Cass. I don't know, just the Firm. And there's, like, Ethan Page is the weirdest one where, like, sometimes you're like, man, I should really like Ethan Page, but you just don't, and you just think he's kind of bad. And like him being sort of the de facto like leader of this faction now that like they've completely cut whatever they were going to do with MJF. It's just all like a clusterfuck. But like there's another heel faction. Like I guess the Sanjay, like the TNA faction is one now. But it's just like the mid-card kiss of death to be up against some of these guys. I wish maybe in this fucking article they'll have the fucking... After the match, he called out Big Bill. The Jungle Boy promo. What a promo. It was like 3 lines, but it was great. No, it just says Hook made the save. The Hook stuff could be cool. Match was rather nondescript, whatever. Anyway, let's move on from this, I guess. I have the Jungle Boy promo here, but not the other one. We got another backstage segment, something that matters, something that isn't a match on this show. We seem to still be setting up Daniel Garcia leaving the Jericho Appreciation Society. Daniel Garcia is another one where you kind of... it's another one where you're like, I should probably like this guy more than I do. But I kind of think he's kind of bad. He tries to do the tough guy stuff, but he does... And I think he's older than me. But he does look like a 12-year-old boy a little bit. Like his arms are very skinny. My arms are very skinny too. But I'm not on national television. At least not yet. And like he'll do his arms up thing, because I assume this is some fighting thing. I don't know anything about real fighting, by the way. That shit's boring as fuck too. Nearly as boring as this fake fighting shit. But he walks around. I was doing the poses if you could see me. But then like there was that week where Hager came out with him and he looks like a fucking monster next to him, and he does it, and it's like, man, that's what a real wrestler looks like. Daniel Garcia also has the thing where he gets into the ring in his entrance and he tries to look stern as he holds his towel up and he looks directly into the hard cam. And he looks like he's terrified to be on TV every time. So there's something off presentationally about Daniel Garcia. He has gotten better at promos. And we are setting him up. He's like, you got to be in the shadow of your big brother, Sammy Guevara, over here. And obviously Sammy is the most over heel. It's so funny that Sammy is like a heel, I guess, because he got a hot girlfriend. Not that I like Sammy that much either. I do like his girlfriend, though. And that wasn't supposed to be a she's sexy punchline. Ty Conti and Anna Jay are probably my favorite members of the Jericho Appreciation Society, and the ones that I think have the biggest upside. Though I like 2.0 too. Danny Magic wasn't there, though. Again, another one that should be cutting more promos. Danny Magic could be like the Sami Zayn of this group, of AEW, really, if they just let him talk more, because all the stuff he says is actually funny, unlike the Stokely Hathaway stuff, and it is very similar to Sami Zayn. Like the nipple hard thing will get over. So for whatever reason, I assume it was something that maybe somebody was doing on the Dark show that they taped beforehand, or maybe this was something on the Ring of Honor show that I missed. But every time they get to 8 now, the crowd says Ocho. Like this stuff could get over, and Jericho probably should be turning babyface again here soon. He's probably done all he can do after he puts over Ricky Starks. He's probably done all the heel shit he can do. I guess maybe it could end up with them turning face and kicking Sammy out. But then Anna Jay and Ty Conti probably go too. But anyway. Yeah, so it's a weird setup where obviously we're supposed to sympathize with Daniel Garcia and it's going to play up in a bunch of wacky and weird ways. Unless it's not the direction we're going and we're making them a team, I guess they could challenge the Acclaimed. But even then, like 2.0 never gets any serious tag team work, which I feel like they should and could. But I guess we'll see how this plays out on Rampage, I guess, because Sammy Guevara is versing Jon Moxley again, because apparently Moxley is ratings on Friday, so they just put him in matches. Though I don't think, again, people care about matches. The House of Black came out after this. Now, this is a similar situation where the only one in the House of Black I really care about is Julia Hart and think has upside. Malachi Black is another one where I feel like we should have just let him go. Whether or not he actually wanted out or whatever, like, I don't think we're ever going to do anything with this faction. Basically, let all the NXT WWE guys go back. Fuck it. Except for probably Keith Lee, just because Keith Lee's probably never going to do anything seriously in AEW, But I feel like if you are Tony Khan, like he will be world champion in WWE if you let him go back. I remember that Roman Survivor Series fucking thing, and Triple H is probably incredibly high on him. And Swerve, by the way. I like Swerve, so keep him around. But Andrade, House of Black dudes, they can all go back. They did like Julia Hart spit, I assume, what was Black Mist or something at the beginning. That spot was kind of didn't hit as hard as I think they intended it. Fucking Lee Moriarty nearly got his neck broken here. The sickest bump I ever saw. I didn't see anything on Twitter, though I don't think I've checked Twitter since I finished watching the show. I assume he's not fucking dead. And I was watching Julia Hart because Julia Hart, I think, is engaged to him. And she was, like, posing in the ring, and she wasn't looking over to, like, him getting stretched out or anything. So I assume it was just, like, he got back up. But who was it? It was Buddy Matthews tried to do it was like a Made in Japan thingy onto another dude who was already on the table, but he didn't lift him up because he's not tall enough. And that was some sick shit. I remember the Rey Fenix bump where he snapped his arm in two. I saw that on the first fucking thing before anybody had realized. Before the fucking doctor had realized. And then they played the replay of it later and I couldn't fucking believe it. But apparently everybody had missed it. So I thought that might have happened again. And fucking Lee Moriarty was dead. Did I say Lee Moriarty a bunch of times? Because it's fucking not. It's Lee Johnson. And they're two black guys named Lee and I've confused them and that's not good. I do like Lee Johnson, by the way. They put him back with the Factory, which is like the kiss of death again, because they really haven't had any idea what to do with him since Cody left. Paul Brock Anderson is the same. It's another crop of like young dudes. Again, AEW's got too many young dudes coming through. Malachi Black, I've never really even liked Aleister Black that much. Again, I don't know what the forward direction is. I guess they will verse Kenny afterwards. I guess the Kenny Malachi Black match is kind of cool, but that's going to be like another 3-month feud, and Kenny's not going to be winning the world title. It's going to be a whole fucking thing. But yeah, this gets them over. They are over. They have always been over with the AEW crowd. They seem to like this group. For me, I don't know. But anyway, was there anything else that happened here? By comparing them to the Flock in this article. Next is actually a very interesting thing, which was Britt Baker talk. This is one of the ones where I was like, Renee wasn't doing too good. I was like, you should probably reference what just happened, be a bit more personable. Maybe Renee's still a little bit nervous, and she'll go into it. But Britt's here, and it wasn't one of Britt's best. She sort of got her words tied and then had to circle back to the point. And then Sky Blue showed up. Now, this fucking Sky Blue is obviously a star, and she's sort of been a perpetual jobber since she sort of got accidentally hired to AEW, I guess, through that Battle Royal thing at All Out last year, and then she was in the Battle Royal on like the Rampage the night before. She had maybe it was a Jade match where she had a babyface thing. Anyway, she comes on, and I was like, oh, obviously she can't cut a promo, and she does a very good job. Now, I had heard her voice before, and her voice, and it might be a Chicago thing, because obviously she's from Chicago because of that All Out show thingy. She sounds just like Evelyn Clare, who is a porn star. Now, why am I listening to porn stars speak, you might ask? Well, she was on a bunch of scuff podcasts, and we love train wrecks around here, potentially, tentatively, until that proves too problematic of a statement. And those are the only two girls that I've ever heard have that type of, I don't know if it's a nasally voice. I'm not shitting on the voice. I like the voice. She comes in, she sounds super serious, she looks serious, nothing she said made me cringe. It was like so good, and I was like, my god. Like, she's a better wrestler than most of the girls. Her shit gets over on Dark every time she does it. She's got like the Liv Morgan appeal where she's so cute that like she's going to have a natural segment of like white meat babyface male support. I really do think she is like Liv Morgan in that regard. Liv's is a little edgier and a little more sexy than cute, I would say. But there's a difference. Like, I've been thinking about this a lot recently in terms of like how you present women's wrestling. And there's sort of like the Mandy Rose, sort of Eva Marie side of like the almost hypersexualized, like bombshell girl, I guess. And they're always heels, right? There's not like even though like supposedly the crowd is full of extremely horny men that would all sell themselves or pay hundreds of dollars on certain sites to see them apparently and get them fired after the fact. That was a topical reference. You catch it on, chat? These girls are always heels, and they're the super sexy heel girls that we're supposed to be resentful of, I guess. And then there's sort of the complete opposite, where it's like the old Bailey character, and probably even like Willing Nightingale falls into this, where they're almost asexual in their appearance. Bailey did that to like an extreme degree back in the day, where obviously she was playing sort of the dumb kid character that sort of developed kind of naturally into a more serious character, and obviously she gets into the Sasha feud and moving forward. There is like this in-between though, where it's like you are kind of over because of your appearance, but it's kind of like your personality is the full package thing. And Liv Morgan and Sky Blue, I think, are firmly in the middle here, where it's not like a bombshell, beautiful, oh my god type thing. It's sort of like a cuteness that is very successful in getting them over, I think. And it's there's something natural about it that always gets sort of a positive reaction from a crowd, even when there's no story. Like, I've seen so many Sky Blue dark matches where she wins the crowd over and everybody likes her, and she's not really done anything. She's like slightly better than most of the other girls in the ring, but I assume these are all in matches that most of the live crowds haven't actually seen. They're just there early to watch dark. There's an inherent likability, I think, and we talk about this with men too. It's just not with sexiness, because objectification, etc., bad male tendencies. But like people talk about, like The Miz has a very punchable heelish face. You put MJF in the same category, and I guess like the Rock and Roll Express or something is sort of like on the opposite end of sort of this babyface and likable. I guess they're the equivalent to the middle girls with Liv and Sky Blue that I'm talking about. Where it's sort of like, I guess Jungle Boy is in this scenario too, where it's sort of a likable, wholesome cuteness that sort of gets an inherent positive reaction. This is all boiling over that Sky Blue has fucking everything. We should probably push this girl. She's obviously doing the job for Britt, I'm assuming, on Rampage. But again, it's another situation where she's got to be on TV more. Willow Nightingale is another one who's increasingly getting over recently. Now, for girls like Willow Nightingale and Jamie Hayter, and etc., just because they're bigger bodies, it's so much easier for their matches to get over. Even putting like Anna Jay and even Ty, I think, into this category, where they are sort of taller or wider. They just inherently bump better, unless you're Sasha and you're literally, like, I heard Steve Austin one time go on a 15-minute monologue about how Sasha bumps like nobody he's ever seen, and she's going to kill herself, but her shit looks so good because of the way she bumps. And for whatever reason, every Sasha bump sounds great. Now, obviously, with a lot of the girls who are smaller, sometimes they take bumps and the mat makes no noise, and it makes it seem botchy, and the flow of the match goes off. So Willow and Jamie Hayter, like, especially because they had a bunch of matches together, all their shit looks spectacular just because it's making loud noises and stuff like that. And so Willow and obviously Jamie got so over that they basically were forced to put the belt on her. And again, we don't seem to have much of a forward direction besides stare off with Sheeta, have Sheeta match that's probably going to be a good match, but that nobody's going to remember. My point here is that Sky Blue and Willow Nightingale have to be on TV a lot more. If we want to, again, it's the momentum thing. If we want to capitalize on this stuff. Obviously, the payoff here is on Rampage and is going to result in Sky Blue losing. I don't know. I feel like I just put her on TV and she'll get more over and we'll have another star on our hands. Another one like this is Toni Storm. Really hasn't done anything since she lost the belts. I don't know, throw Athena at somebody. She seems to be doing cool shit where she's beating people up and is a heel now. We've got an overabundance of women heels, though, it feels like, and no top babyface. Like, Toni Storm, I guess, is the top babyface. Like, Jamie Hayter is still technically a heel, right? I guess Saraya is, but again, we don't want her to win the belt so soon. And she's only wrestling every once in a while. I hope the Saraya, I guess, I guess Sasha's going to come in and be the top babyface, but that's never a good idea. She'll be a heel in a month after she beats the shit out of poor Sky Blue or something. Sasha Banks is my favorite wrestler. It really will be interesting if she comes in, because you have to put the belt on her, like, immediately. I'm sure her and Jamie, that's the perfect way to, like, Jamie is the over, sort of undercurrent, sort of, I guess, default top babyface right now, and I think there will be a lot of resentment if the WWE girl comes in and kills her, and I think that's perfect, and I think Sasha will be a perfect heel coming off of that. Sky Blue can be her first defense because she's really good. Sky Blue really is 23 years old, huh? She's only 2 years older than me. Can you believe it? Fucking that Julia Hart girl, a month younger than me, and that pisses me off. Even the Bleacher Report article here is saying good things about Sky Blue. I really did like this. It got me excited. I was like, this is interesting. We're building stuff here. Was it my favorite thing on the show? I guess. I thought the show was good. It doesn't sound like it, huh? But this is like all the shit that I've been thinking about for like months at this point, and I've had no outlet for them. Anyway, I don't know. I was just reading the article here. Then we had Action Andretti over here in the Jericho match. It was cool. It's another issue of like, do we need another dude on this roster? Unless we are doing the James Ellsworth thing where Jericho's going to beat the shit out of him next week and then he's going to become a meme and then he'll be a little bit over for a few months and then we'll have never signed him and we'll just let him go. If you're Action Andretti over here, you'd probably take the deal because you'll be over on TV for a little while and then you can charge more for indie appearances. But also his gear and his shit was good enough looking, I guess, that he could be an actual dude. So we'll see. Again, this is a Jericho thing, so we will get follow-up to this next week, and it's not going to run out of momentum, but we'll see how this goes. This article is speculating that Jericho might be taking some time off or something. But yes, the crowd was very into this. It was a good pop at the end. It was all good. We kind of already talked about it, though. We had a video package with FTR and the Gun Club. I actually kind of like this feud. I actually really like the Gun Club. I think they're good. The short fat one is a very good promo. The other one looks great. I feel like there's a lot of upside to these Gun Club fellas. And I feel like they've sort of been the punching bags for the Acclaimed in the dumpster match. And now they're in the Firm, and that's just like go away heat inherently. They're obviously losing to FTR here. They could conceivably beat them next week by like the FTR so fucked up from their match with the Briscoes that they can't do nothing. That would just extend the feud, and then FTR would beat them up bigger and better at a later date, probably. But yeah, I like the Guns. I guess it's my hot take. Been quite a few hot takes in this. Ruby Soho and Ty Mello. I like it. It's a payoff to a feud. Ruby came back in her hometown and was very over, and then again, like I think that was 2 weeks ago, and then last week there was nothing about them on the show, and if there was anything, it might have been like a shitty video package that nobody cared about. So it sort of had lost some momentum, but the interesting thing is Ruby wins, and then Anna Jay beats her up, which probably means we're getting an Anna Jay Ruby match, but Ruby's just going to win that as well, I'm assuming. Again, we got a lot of top heels in this division, and Ruby has some forward direction, because at some point she's got to beat Britt Baker. She's lost to her twice now. She could be a Jamie defense. When Sasha comes in, etc., assuming it is her. Ruby's got a lot of upside. So obviously she should be winning, and because she's done a lot of losing since she's gotten to AEW. But yeah, so I don't know. Maybe she's gonna get a partner, but I don't know. Are we introducing another girl along with Sasha, or I'm trying to think of somebody injured that's gonna come back or something. I don't know. Because it wasn't like Sammy that distracted her or something, so that we could do another Ortiz-Sunny match or something. Sammy match. I don't know. We'll see where this is going. The match itself was pretty good. Ty Conti is good at shit talking. This is actually something that it says. Mello is a great heel, but perhaps because we spend too much time being annoyed by her and Sammy's. The Sammy stuff has to stop. Like, they have to stop kissing at the top of the ramp. It was a cute thing to get heat for like 2 weeks, but it's become so played out at this point, where it's sort of like they come out and they get the boo, but you're always going to reside yourself to being a gimmick, dumb heel, kissy couple thing. Like, The Miz and Maurice can do it, because The Miz is always sort of like a goofy heel. Like... And because Ty kind of got fucked by all of this, because she was over as a babyface. She was like top 3 or 2 babyface before the Sammy stuff happened. And even with the Sammy stuff initially, she was getting even more over from it, and then everybody turned on Sammy and sort of her by proxy. The kissing stuff was a good way to capitalize on the heel turn. But at this point, like, you can just come out and walk next to each other. It's going to seem cooler anyway. And it's just sort of a cheap heat thing. I feel like we're all addicted to cheap heat, though. Like, we gotta get a reaction, brother. And it's just like... It sort of undermines Ty because, I don't know, if you put the dude and the girl on screen, I don't know, it sort of always undercuts the girl, I think. Especially when she's supposed to be a serious ass kicker. And especially when she is so much more that than Sammy is. In sort of their representative divisions. Respective divisions, I think is what I should have said. But yeah, again, these girls should be on TV more. The girls are good in AEW. It's not the generic sentiment is like, oh, the girls just suck. They're just not on TV enough. Like, there should be at least one girl promo segment a month. Like, I feel like every girl promo segment is good. Like, Jade is a great talker. It's the only thing she's really good at least at this point. That and her high kick. The rest of the wrestling is very bad. Britt should be just do, whoever's feuding with Britt has a promo. Or split Britt and Saraya up already and have them both separately do promos. And the girls aren't going to learn to do... Like, Nyla's a pretty good promo. Like, the girls aren't going to learn to get better at promos if nobody's letting them do it. Like, there was one... Like, Jade had a promo on Dynamite, I think, last week. But before that, it'd been so long. Like, if you're... Like, the hottest girl feud that we had, like, the small-time ones, like, the Thunder Rosa Britt thing was pretty good. And then the Jamie Hayter, like, march to the championship was pretty good. But, like, the hottest girl feud before that was the Ruby Soho Britt one, because they had, like, a 5-minute promo segment on Rampage where they were just allowed to, like, roast each other for a second, and it got everybody involved. Like, that was where the, like, banging some dude in the back, you know, different than all these other girls meme came from, and the, like, you didn't run away from anything, you got fired. These were both great lines, and again, it felt even. So nobody was getting shit on, which could be a problem. Again, it was nearly a problem with MJF last week with the Pebble stuff, because it got over for a second, but then Ricky shut it down. And Britt could do that to a lot of these girls. You just have to avoid that. So yeah, the girls need to talk more. Like, at least one a week. Like, we can afford that. And then have 2 matches. Like, a short one if you need, and then a long one. It's just like, they have to be on TV more. When do you think the next time we see Ty Mello in a match is going to be on Dynamite? It's probably not going to be for like a month or more. And she's going to be in the background of Jericho Appreciation Society shit. I thought it said a clear tease that the program is over in this article, but it said far from over. Then I think we're up to the main event. Again, this is a similar thing where AEW has a problem with these... How many times have I started a fucking sentence with that tonight? Their sort of TV title defenses have, like, sucked a lot. Like, I remember there was, like, a Lance Archer Hangman one. The Hangman feud, title reign suffered tremendously from this. He had the Bryan ones, and then he had the Adam Cole pay-per-view match that didn't really feel like a pay-per-view main event at all. And then he had, like, the Lance Archer one. I think it was actually Moxley that had the Brody King one. There's just so many TV title defenses where the idea, again, it's kind of a smart logic brain thing of, like, babyface beats up big guy. But, like, nobody cares. Like, nobody cared about the Brody King Ambrose match. What's his fucking name? John Moxley match. Nobody cared about the Lance Archer one because nobody conceivably thinks they're going to win. And nobody's even hoping for those guys to win. It's different here because Ricky has never had a world title match before. This is MJF's first defense. They had that great promo last week, and people want Ricky to win. They don't want MJF to lose. They want Ricky to win. So it makes for a great match, the crowd was super into it, etc. It wasn't just a great match because it was a great work, brother, which I'm pretty sure the Lance Archer match was good, and it was probably getting a reaction from the crowd for the spots and stuff. And same with the Brody King, Dean Ambrose match, what's his fucking name? John Moxley match. But, nobody remembers those matches. Nobody cares about them because nobody was invested in them. This one was different, so the build-up to this was much better. I assume the match itself was pretty good. I don't remember a lot of it now. Again, fake fighting doesn't matter. The finish just being sort of the low blow and the roll-up was okay, I guess. You kind of did undermine it with the Bryan stuff afterwards, especially because Ricky was still in the ring and Bryan came to check on him. Kind of makes Ricky look like a bit of a chump. I actually thought Bryan was going to knee Ricky or something. Not to set up a Ricky feud, but just to prove that he's still a heel. He even came out of the heel entrance. But yeah, because even then, nobody actually thought Ricky was going to win this match, but it's just a lot bigger of an investment. So I think, and it's just an interesting match. MJF and Ricky Starks, it hasn't happened, and it would be cool to see it. So yeah, even the last one, which was the Hangman Moxley match, I think was pretty good too. But there's been a few stinkers where it's just this doesn't feel important at all, and you can sort of. Because the idea is that, it's a world title match on TV, so everybody's going to care about it, it's going to do a big rating. But I feel like it's even less where, the title sort of takes away from any appeal the match could have, because if it was a non-title match, it might be more interesting to see who goes over. That wasn't the case with this one. I'm talking more so with, with the Archer match or the Brody King match. Obviously, the next one, I'm pretty sure, on January the 4th, unironically, I think, on Wrestle Kingdom Day, which means Bryan's not going to be on Wrestle Kingdom. They're in Seattle for the first time, and either it had to be MJF versus Darby or MJF versus Bryan. It looks like they're probably doing the Bryan match. It makes sense. In his hometown, Bryan is going to do another job to the world champion. Bryan is another one whose selfishness is actually fucking everybody over in the end and is helping nobody because he thinks I'm going to put Sammy Guevara over or Daniel Garcia over, and it just devalues him so that it doesn't actually mean anything when he puts anybody over, and everybody just thinks Bryan loves putting people over. What a selfless bloke. He actually should have come in and killed everybody and still been undefeated, and then it would have meant something to the person that eventually beat him. I've also never been a Bryan guy at all. This Black Bull Combat Club, I don't like any of them really, but I think they're all collectively very overrated and very boring. Yuta's okay, I guess, and Cesaro is good sometimes in his mid-card role. The hopes for him when he came in that he would be actually booked as a top guy on this show when he's in the exact same position he was in the WWE. He's part of a group or a tag team, which he always got saddled with in WWE, having good matches on the show, but nobody really cares. Poor Cesaro. But yeah, Bryan and MJF should be cute moving forward. I feel like I actually did have sticky notes that I haven't even been looking at for stuff I wanted to talk about. Rampage remodel, we seem to be booking things for Rampage. Britt's going to be on it. Moxley's going to be on it. You have to start cutting angles on it or doing cool promos and actual big matches, etc. It seems like they're moving in a positive direction with Rampage because it did suck for a while. And 2 weeks ago, the main event was Orange Cassidy versus QT Marshall or something. And again, I assume the Tony Khan idea is, well, the title's on the line, so people have to care. But no, absolutely not. I talked about the MJF challenges thing. Ricky as a challenger and making it a big deal. Brody King / Lance Archer follow-up. Yep, we talked about all of this stuff. So that's all the million things that jumped into my mind coming off of this Dynamite. Ultimately, I like the show, and I think we're moving in a positive direction. We need to cut some of these guys, and I'm not even being cruel by saying let them starve, because they're all going to go to WWE anyway. So we can have better momentum on these shows with less people, and stop fucking signing people. I think that's all we have to say. I have no idea if this is going to be a weekly thing. It's entirely possible I'll watch next week's and have nothing to say about it. I'll probably just title this video talking about Dynamite Winter is Coming, and then put the date in brackets. I assume like after I watch the Rumble or something, I will want to do another one of these. That's in like a month. Wrestle Kingdom probably too. So whenever I want to say some things about wrestling, yes, this is what we're going to do now, because fuck it. With that being said, subscribe, hang out for more, support links in the description below. Thanks.